here for you. Fight for extinction, our alma mater, bravely defending BSU. Fight government, sleep for Boise State. Success in our maker trade. White spark condition as a competition. Glory for BSU.
Good morning, Bronco Nation. Welcome to another episode of Bronco Nation Live. Hey, I am Nick, and happy Thanksgiving. Glad to have you on today. We are streaming on many platforms, but the best connection that we have with our UI here is if you are on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, go to YouTube. And whatever you comment or question today will air live here on Bronco Nation Live. Today I am again joined by Sam Gillette, and today we're going to react on last weekend's games with CFP, um, uh, the CFP um, leverage on how we're doing and how those games went last week in regards to our position on the rankings. And it was a wild weekend, wasn't it, Sam?
It was a wild weekend, and there for the first half of the Wake Forest Miami game, I thought it was going to be even more wild. But you've got Ole Miss lost, uh, Minnesota almost beat Penn State, BYU lost, Colorado lost, uh, UNLV won, obviously, Boise State won, Army lost, Alabama lost. That was a shocker. Alabama and A&M both losing. That it was. It was a shocker of a week for the top 25 in the CFP, and we are the biggest winners of the week was Georgia and Tennessee because they went from on the bubble to securely in unless they lose this week, and Georgia's got Georgia Tech and Tennessee has Vandy, so it's possible they could. But the biggest winners of last week was definitely Georgia and Tennessee. Uh, Boise State would probably come in. Third in that list, just because of the people that we got off our back with BYU and Colorado uh, getting off our back. The only issue now that I see is Arizona State creeping up on us, and if they went out, they could have a chance to jump us. So, uh, but it was a crazy week. And
Right.
and rivalry week is stacking up to be just as crazy if the right people win.
Yeah, and what I was looking at is, I think what we're doing here is, and I'm learning a lot too as we go through these game by game. Um, Everything, for the most part, everything went in um, in our way as
Yeah,
regards to Boise State. Um, and we almost, even the Minnesota game, they almost squeaked that out against Penn State, I believe.
they
And I
did.
mean, it came down to the last few minutes of that game. Uh, PJ Flex boat almost crossed the line there. So, um, but I was going to ask you because right now we are, there's the talking points between the Mountain West and the Big 12, and we last week we were talking about those style points, but actually with both BYU and Colorado losing, we would have liked to have seen um, that comparable game between Wyoming and what BYU and Arizona State did. We wanted to at least hit that 20-point cushion.
Yeah,
We didn't, but I'm thinking like, hindsight, like now, and this is purely just my opinion, is like since both Colorado and BYU lost, those style points aren't as important as they were before, and literally just not making just basically a talking point for the Big 12 to go, hey, we have Arizona State, we beat Wyoming by 41, but they still have that rivalry game this week against Arizona, and then and then they still have, if they win that, then they still have the conference championship for the Big 12. So to me, they're just talking points with those margins of victory. Um, and it still comes down to us. We still just win the game, correct?
yep, correct. If we win, we're in no matter what. Whether we get a first round bye, that's going to be up to the committee. But right now, Tulane's our next closest competition at 17, uh, and they actually play Memphis today, uh, or tonight, I should say, at 6:30 on ESPN. Uh, it's a must-win game for Tulane. Uh, they they the AAC is the only conference that has locked their conference championship right now. Out of all the conferences, the AAC is the only one that knows who's playing who. The only question is Will they be playing at Army or will they be playing at Tulane? Right now, it's looking like Tulane unless Tulane loses. If Tulane loses and Army wins, then it's going to be they'll be playing at Army. If Tulane wins, they'll be playing at Tulane because I don't see Army jumping from unranked to 16 over Tulane against whoever they're playing. I don't think they're playing anyone special this week. So, um, and I don't mean special. I mean like special is in high ranking. So clear that up. Everyone's special. But still, uh, the AAC is the only conference that does not have any kind of drama surrounding this week's football game. So,
Right, and so we're ranked number 11th, and so they're another G5, which is Tulane at 17, correct? So
correct.
we just got to keep winning, and then um, I- I'm looking here at your championship scenarios. It could still get messy in the AAC, correct? Isn't there? There's a scenario where there could be like an 8-way tie for first.
That's in the Big 12. The Big 12
Oh,
has an 8-way tie for first if the top four all lose. Though there will be an 8-way tie for first place. If your Arizona State, Iowa State, BYU, and Colorado all lose, then you bring in Baylor, Kansas State, Texas Tech, and West Virginia all have a shot at the Big 12 conference game, and it is an absolute mess. So whenever I did my championship guide, it took me about 30 to 40 minutes to go through and figure out everybody else. It took almost an hour and a half to do the Big 12 just because I was hunting down and checking source. I'm a firm trust but verify guy, so I don't go in and look at what somebody else wrote and just copy and paste that. I'll look what they wrote, go and verify it on my own, and then put it in my words. So it was a headache going through the Big 12 and uh, their scenarios and everything, and it's a doozy. So basically, if Iowa State and Arizona State win, uh, or excuse me, if all the top four win, Iowa State, Arizona State, BYU, and Colorado, you're going to see Iowa State and Arizona State in the Big 12 championship game, which we would then
and that,
want. Correct.
and that's number
Oh,
six. That's number 16 and 18,
right. And we would
respectively.
want Iowa State to win that game because if Arizona State wins that game, they'll most likely jump us. If any two of the top four teams win this week, uh, then it'll be those two teams. If only Iowa State wins, it'll be Arizona State and BYU. If only Arizona wins, it'll be Iowa State and BYU. And if only Colorado, loses. If Iowa State loses and Arizona State loses, I apologize for that. If only Colorado loses, Iowa State and Arizona State go too. So the most likely teams in the Big 12 is going to be Iowa State and Arizona State because I don't see Iowa State losing this week and I don't see Arizona State losing this week and I sure don't see both of them losing this week. But I didn't see A&M losing to Auburn either. So, or Oklahoma beating Alabama. That blew my mind. Now let's say,
We did talk about that last weekend too.
yeah,
So
yeah.
um,
Let's say
but
only
right
BYU
now,
loses. Let's
right,
say only BYU loses. Then you're going to have an Arizona State versus Colorado, unless West Virginia wins. Uh, then it'll be Iowa State. So if Texas Tech, Baylor, and Cincinnati win, it's Iowa State. It's Arizona State, Colorado, unless Virginia wins, then I believe it's Arizona State and Iowa State. So uh, it's so so messy in the Big 12 right now, and I'm here for the chaos. I'm just not here for doing the research for the chaos to let everybody know what it is. So, to the easiest path for each of the second four, I call them the ones that are in the hunt. Uh,
Mhm.
if the top four all lose and Baylor wins and TCU wins, you're going to have a Baylor and Texas Tech Big 12 championship game. And I really want that, considering the comments the Big 12 commissioner made this week about how Boise State doesn't deserve to be ranked above Arizona State. So now I think his perfect poetic justice would be if Baylor and Texas Tech played for his Big 12, and then the Big 12 gets shut out of the playoffs altogether because they don't have anyone in the top 12 or a ranked conference champion. And that would be the cherry on top of the cake if if that happened.
Yep. For everyone who's watching right now, just remember that all your comments and questions will be aired live here on Bronco Nation Live. Also, we um, all monetization that happens on TikTok or on Meta or in YouTube, all that goes to the Boise State BAA. We donate that through our nonprofit Blue Elevation. So if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put those in the chat, and those will air live here in the show. Um, yeah, so it looks like uh, you have three teams on top, right? You got for Big 12. I want to stay in the Big 12 here.
All right.
You have three teams with only two losses, right? You have Arizona State, BYU, and Iowa State. Um, so we actually want to kind of key in on those three, and we want them to lose, right?
Correct. Arizona State losing to Arizona. Uh, Iowa State. Hold on. Let's see. Iowa State. Who does Iowa State play? Iowa State. There it is. Kansas State. That one actually, I mean, we want Iowa State to lose, but that could also propel Kansas State up since it's Kansas State's ranked 24. Will it pull them up high enough to jump Boise State? Doubtful, but it still just depends on what the committee looks at. Um, and we also want BYU to lose as well, and they play Houston. So Houston already had that Kansas State win, so maybe they'll pull off a BYU win now that BYU is reeling on a 2-game losing skid. Uh, Maybe we can wrap it out with 3. Then Colorado plays Oklahoma State, who there are probably some at the beginning of the year that thought it'd be Colorado and Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game, just because of Coach Prime and Oklahoma State being a Big 12 blue blood. Uh, and now it's just like Oklahoma State just wants to play spoilers, if anything. If they want to put their mark on the season, it'll be keeping Colorado out of the playoffs, which they still have like
Um,
a 3.9% chance to make the playoffs.
do you? I wouldn't think that the committee would put a 3-loss Big 12 championship champion over a 1-loss Boise State Mountain West
I,
championship.
I don't
Would
think
you?
so either. Tulane has more to worry about than Boise State for the 5th conference champion spot. Because right now, uh, it's Tulane or Arizona State. Excuse me, it's Arizona State. Tulane's going to be rooting for Arizona State to lose because then that puts them uh, as a possibility for that G5 spot, depending on what happens in conference championship scenarios. Because you got Tulane's right in the middle of Arizona State, Iowa State, and BYU. So any help they can get from Arizona State. Iowa State doesn't play, or Iowa State's the only one that plays a ranked team this week, and they're going to most likely jump Tulane, and then Tulane's going to want Iowa State to lose the conference championship next week. Uh, if Iowa State wins this week. Uh, if Iowa State loses and BYU wins, and Arizona State loses, I don't think BYU jumps Tulane just because BYU is playing Houston. And Arizona State will definitely drop because they're playing Arizona. So the Big 12 could possibly give the CFP two Group of Five conference champions in the first CFP rankings, and that's amazing for Group of Five status. Unless they get in there and then Boise State or UNLV, whoever it may be, and Tulane, if they just completely lay an egg, then the CFP is probably going to use that as a uh, reason to not rank G5 schools ahead of P5 schools uh, in future committee rankings down the road because, well, we did that once and we got boring football out of it. I think as long as it's competitive football, then they could put all five G5 schools in there as conference champions, and it'd be a good game. But I don't think that's going to
So
happen
you,
anytime soon.
so you, so you do you think that if that scenario played out where Big 12 had a three-loss champion, would you think that they would actually put a two-loss Tulane in, or
If
or even or
if
even a
the
one-loss Army?
no, Army's not even ranked right now. I don't think Army can make that big of a
Yeah.
leap. Uh,
Oh yeah,
Tulane,
they'd have to be rated. They'd have to be ranked over the Big 12 champ,
correct.
right?
Right now, the
Okay.
only other team that's poised to do that would be Tulane. UNLV's down there, but I don't think even if they beat Boise State, they're not going to jump over Tulane if Tulane wins. Um,
Yeah, we don't want.
yeah. So basically, if a Tulane, and this goes into the first game of my cheer guide, which will be posted shortly after this show's over, uh, Tulane's got to win, and they'll clinch home field advantage in their conference championship if they win. If they lose, it's going to guarantee that the Mountain West Conference is the G5 representative. It's that fifth conference champion because no matter what, if UNLV wins, they've got a top 12 win under their belt against Boise State, and they'll likely jump Tulane if Tulane loses to Memphis, which is very likely that they could lose to Memphis. Memphis isn't a slouch team. So if Memphis beats Tulane, then it doesn't matter if Boise State beats you and UNLV makes the Mountain West Championship game. It doesn't matter who wins that game; they're going to the playoffs, which will make the Mountain West Championship game probably the biggest conference championship game uh, during championship week, just because of that implication. I think they'll be the only conference that is playing basically a playoff game because it's a win and you're in. Uh, kind of scenario. And that's if Tulane loses and it's Boise State and UNLV in the Mountain West Championship game. A lot of
Yeah,
ifs,
that would.
but by the end of tomorrow or by the end of Saturday, I should say, all those ifs are going to be clear focus, and we're going to know exactly who's what and where they are.
And that championship game is going to be at Albertson Stadium in Boise.
Yep,
It's going to be 6 o'clock Eastern or 6 o'clock Mountain Time on Big Fox. So yeah, that would be a huge game and probably have a lot of viewership for it's right in prime time.
yep. It's hopefully we don't lay an egg like we did against Nevada and and play down because
Yeah, we just got to keep winning.
yep.
All right. So let's get into your cheer guide and
All right.
let,
Oh,
let's start.
we've already touched on Memphis. They're 31%, or Memphis and Tulane. They're 31% chance for Tulane to make the playoffs.
Mhm.
And like I said, they've already clinched their conference championship appearance. If they win, they'll host their conference champion. If they lose, then Army will host, unless Army loses as well. Uh, so that's the easiest conference for all the postseason play to deal with right now because it's just cut and dry. Win and you're in.
Because right now, Memphis and Tulane are both 9-2 overall.
Yep.
Tulane's got the better conference record. Tulane's riding a not an 8-game win streak. Memphis has a two game win streak. So they're not a slouch in any means either. So that should be a pretty good game.
Yes, it should. Um, I'm glad it's tonight. Give me something to watch. Break away from
Yeah.
the NFL for a little bit.
Yep. Take your nap after the turkey and
Yeah.
then hit up college football.
So that's the only game on my cheer guide for tonight. I think there's a couple other games, but they have no effect on Boise State. Uh, Tomorrow, obviously, is the big day against Oregon State, and we'll go ahead and jump into Boise State here since it'd be kind of ridiculous to do them at the end of the list and have to jump back 2 days. uh, but we got Oregon State and Boise State. Obviously, Boise State is a must-win game for them. Uh, Oregon State's 5-6, and they need a win to be bowl eligible. If they don't get this win after knocking off Washington State last week and becoming the de facto Pac-12 champion, uh, if they don't get this win, then their season's over. So they're going to be coming out firing on all cylinders, ready to punch Boise State in the mouth and secure their bowl eligibility. Boise State has to win to keep their playoff hopes alive. They've already clinched the Mountain West Conference champion and likely home field. Uh, However, a win guarantees home field. We saw it with the basketball team last year. Don't leave it up to the committee to decide your fate because they'll put you at an 11 seed. So uh, just get in, take care of business, get the win, leave no doubt, and let us sit around on Tuesday not having to worry if UNLV is going to jump us or not because we lost to Oregon State. Uh, so if we get in, take care of business, leave no question, let Genty run wild all over that defense, and uh, get a dub.
Speaking of Genty, he is pursuing some more records, correct?
Correct. He's 566 yards away from tying Barry Sanders' record set in 1988. So it's it's a record that few have come close to, and no one has broken. Obviously, and Genty's right up there at 2,062 yards on the season. Uh, there's a lot of the naysayers that say, "Well, Genty's got more games to do it in than what Barry did," and that's true. But Genty also is doing it in less carries so far. Uh, he's let's see. I think he's got he needs 188 yards to tie the record in the playoff game. He needs 283 yards a game to tie it in the Mountain West Championship game. I don't think he's going to tie it in the Mountain West Championship game as much as I would love to have done that against at a home crowd in a championship setting. I just don't think it's going to happen unless he rattles off a 350-yard game against Oregon State this week, which if Oregon State stacks the box, I don't think that's happening either. So uh, he's
It's
a lot of people think that Barry Sanders just touched the ball 20 times a game or so and ran it up. I think Genty has 4 30-yard carries games this year, and Barry Sanders had 7. So Genty's doing it in less carries, and Barry Sanders, and I think actually his last game he had 44 carries. So that late in the season, if you want to match greatness, you got to carry as many times as greatness carried, uh, and go from there. So the people who say, "Oh, rest Genty," no, ride him. We get that first round bye, and then we're gonna have 25 days of rest, and that to me is more than just making the playoffs. Is having the rest to make a run in the playoffs.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like I said last show is um, Barry Sanders is my idol. Like I idolized my game after him. I'm shorter, stockier, so I did a lot of the 360s, the duck and juke and all that. And so they both are great, but they both have different styles, right?
Yep.
When Barry was playing, they didn't stack the box like they are with Ashton Genty. Like Ashton has um, broken over 100 tackles, and they're literally stacking the box with 8, 9 guys. So totally different styles. So I'm okay if he breaks the record. I'm okay with the extra games. Like I said
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah. And in 2002, they included postseason stats for single season records. So people who think that it's over after this week, it's not. Uh, Another quick note is Oregon State. They rank 104th against the run, and they give up 182.6 yards per game. So maybe Genty can break out a couple of them 70+ yarders again that we saw the first of the year.
Yeah, those and those also help his his Heisman hopeful. Every time he breaks one of those, the the phenomenon just grows for him.
Yeah,
Like even last week, he may not have gotten a lot of yards in his on his resume like he usually does, but he did break. Um, he broke that long one, and then also what I think probably solidified him winning the Heisman is he was banged up and he came back in. He put the
yep,
team on his back. He helped them drive those 30 yards for Breezy to break it in and get that Breezy bundle.
yeah. It was a treat this week watching all the the NFL players coming out and saying they're boycotting this college football if Genty doesn't get the Heisman. So that just shows you that the flash that the Colorado program has going on right now is just that. It's a flash in the frying pan, but substance with Genty and consistency is what the fans are looking for.
Yeah, I know that I've seen I saw a post on X by Le'Veon Bell,
Yeah,
uh, former Michigan State running back and Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he said if 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 Ashton doesn't get the Heisman, I'm done with
yeah,
college football. So
yep,
uh, yeah, and I know that RG3 has been a pretty big fan of Ashton all year. Yeah, it's just picking up more momentum, and I think that was his Heisman moment where you know, he bucked up, got out there, put the team on his back, drove it in. Drove those 30 yards to get it close for Breezy to punch it in, and we won the game. So,
yeah,
it, and even without that, I still think that his resume, um, just give the damn Heisman Trophy to Ashton. Like for real, he's
right,
over 2,000 yards. He's leading. He's leading every column in stats for his position, and even in some overall in college football when it comes to like touchdowns and stuff. And he's like leading. I don't know, like what was it? There's like 100 teams out there that he's outscoring, like
right,
all together.
yeah.
So I mean, just give him the damn award, like Le'Veon Bell saying.
And you can almost see the sigh of relief that he had whenever he crossed that 2,000 yard mark, knowing his dreads were safe.
Yeah, yeah. I've been kind of a shock to see a lockless Ashton.
Yeah.
Um,
So moving on, we got Oklahoma State and Colorado. Colorado dropped down to 25 this week, which is a way further drop than what I thought they'd drop, but I'm not mad about it. They still have a 3.9% chance to make the playoffs at a 17-point favorite. Colorado has to win and have only Arizona State, Iowa State, or BYU uh, win, and that'll give them that two of four top team scenario, and that'll put Colorado State playing one of those two teams if only one more of them win, or they need Arizona State, Iowa State, Colorado, Texas Tech all to win, and BYU lose, and then they'll be in it as well. So they have a lot of teams that have to win or lose in order for them to get into the Big 12 championship and have that shot at being the fifth. If they do make it to the championship and win, it'll come down to the committee on whether or not the Big 12 will get that fifth uh, conference champion spot in the CFP, or if they'll leave it with Tulane. So a lot of football to play still in the Big 12 to figure out who's going where and who's doing what, and all there is speculation at the point of who's going to be in the Big 12 championship. But by the end of Saturday, we'll know for sure who's going to be in it, and we'll be able to give more detailed analysis next week on where people should end up in the CFP, and who's going to go and who's going to stay home.
So, and you're saying for Colorado to make it into the playoffs, they need a lot of help.
Yep. First things first, they have to win out.
And so, so if they win their conference championship, they'd have 3 losses.
Mm-hmm.
So that where would that put them? Would that put them the 12th seed?
I don't think they'll be in at large. I think if they get in, it's going to be because they're the 5th ranked conference champion, which means they probably need Tulane to lose as well.
Okay, so if Tulane ends up winning their championship and Colorado wins the championship, and so Tulane would be a 1 loss, and Colorado would be a 3 loss. Tulane would be the 12, right?
I would assume so, unless the CFP takes Tulane's losses as weakness, but I don't see how they can do that with Colorado having unranked losses themselves. But I believe if Tulane wins and Colorado wins the Big 12, you're going to see such a cry from the Big 12 commissioner and Coach Prime for Colorado to be that 5th spot. But I don't think that they can give it to them just on merit alone. Because if Colorado makes the Big 12, they've got a unranked Oklahoma State, a 3-win Oklahoma State this week that they should win. That's not going to move them up enough in the rankings unless the people in front of them lose, like what happened last week. So there's a lot of people that have to lose, and Colorado has to win in order for them to get the CFP nod. And I believe that's why they're only a 3.9% in the playoff predictor. Just because there's too many moving parts that has to.
Would they would be more suited as a 11 seed, right? If that scenario played out.
Yeah. No, they'd be a 12 seed. Colorado can't get any higher than 12, in my opinion. There's no way you're jumping from 25 to top 10 or top 12 in the CFP if they're not if they're not already ranked in the top 15. Just because they've got Oklahoma State and they may or may not have a ranked opponent in the Big 12 championship, depending on who wins and loses.
But so then where would they actually give Tulane a better seed then?
If Tulane is not ranked in the top 12 and Colorado jumps Tulane will be left out. Yeah.
So if there is a scenario where they would choose a 3-loss Big 12 over a 1-loss AAC.
Only if Colorado or the Big 12 jumps. So right now Tulane's in as the 5th conference champion. Tulane's out on that bubble because Arizona State is ranked above them.
Still,
Arizona State's that fifth conference champion. So if the scenarios work out to where Colorado makes it, and Arizona State drops below Tulane in the rankings, then Tulane would then be that fifth conference champion. It doesn't say that only one group of five conference champion can make the playoffs. It says the top five conference champions get automatic bids. So if the Big 12 works out where Colorado can't get over Tulane, because if Colorado wins, then that's going to mean Arizona State would have lost at some point, and Iowa State would have lost at some point, and BYU would have lost at some point, and that will take Colorado having to come up from 25 to 17 or higher, depending on where Tulane ends up their conference or in the final CFP polls. They'd have to make that big of a leap, that 8-point leap, to jump Tulane. Otherwise, you're going to see Tulane as the number 12 slot, and Boise State most likely still in the 4 seed.
I have a comment on TikTok. The user said they think that Notre Dame's just gonna plow through the rest of the field in the
Yeah, I see that.
CFP.
I don't think Notre Dame's going to win the CFP, but they're definitely going to get into it. They don't play anybody else that has a shot of knocking them off anyway. We'll get into their game a little bit later on, but I like Notre Dame. I hope they do good this year. So when Boise State goes down to Notre Dame next year, they have a good team that we can lay to rest.
Hey, I just want to let you guys know that Bronco Nation Live is brought to you by Boosted Oxygen Water. So elevate your hydration. Unlike ordinary water, Boosted Oxygen Water features unique oxygen composition, providing a higher oxygen content for superior hydration. Experience the next level of hydration with Boosted Oxygen Water, meticulously crafted to invigorate your body with enhanced oxygen content. Ideal for fitness enthusiasts and wellness seekers, this water offers a revitalization boost that goes beyond ordinary hydration, helping you stay refreshed, energized throughout your active lifestyle. So if you love the Big Blue, make sure to pick up the blue bottle in your local and online Walmarts. Boosted Oxygen Water. It's very good. So I want to thank them for sponsoring Bronco Nation Updates, Blue Elevation, and their contribution goes to the university, and so we're greatly appreciative for them.
Is that available in Walmarts nationwide, or is it just up there in Idaho?
Yeah, you can go online, and I believe they have cases available online. It just dropped into their warehouses like about 10 days ago. So
Oh, yeah?
before it was just direct from them, but now they have a deal with Walmart. So you can go in to your brick and mortar stores, or you can order it online. Get to you. And like I said last week, I'm a long distance runner. I run marathons, and I'm about 10 miles a day. Having that oxygen level in the system is very very good, not only for athletes, but it also for the biological clock. It's
Yeah.
been proven that having more oxygen in the system creates a longevity for anybody. So
How well does it work for long distance eaters? Because I like eating.
well, if you keep those levels up, then you can keep eating. I believe so. Yep. It do pretty well today for it would be great to do for your tailgates because it'll help people with hangovers the next day. So you want to keep fully hydrated for any event, for your tailgates, for your watch parties, for everything.
Well, what do you say we jump back into this cheer guide?
Okay, let's go.
All right, so up next we got Mississippi State at 2:30 on ABC tomorrow. I'm sorry, we got a echo on your end again, Nick.
Is this better?
Yeah. Nope.
Okay. No.
I don't know what happened because it was good before. Gotta love technical difficulties on the fly.
You go ahead. You go ahead, and I'll fix my mic. Okay.
Okay. So Mississippi State and number 14 Ole Miss. There's don't really see a path for Ole Miss to jump Boise State. They still have a 6.7% chance to make the playoffs, but they got Mississippi State this week, and that's it. They've got to root for a bunch of losses ahead of them, which we saw last week. So it's not far fetched that could happen. But Alabama, Clemson, Boise State, and Indiana and SMU would all pretty much have to lose in order for Ole Miss to get in there, lose at some point in the next 2 weeks. Miami could drop out or SMU could drop out, depending on their conference championship game. Indiana, God forbid they lose to Purdue, could drop out, but I don't think they're losing to Purdue. So they're looking anywhere from that 6 to 12 range of those teams losing at least once in the next 2 weeks, and only two of them are playing in a conference. Three of them are playing in a conference champion or have a shot to play in a conference championship game, and that's Miami, SMU, Boise State, and Clemson. Four, I guess five if you want to include Indiana, but they need a lot of help to get in there. So it's possible, but not likely that they make the playoffs. And hopefully Mississippi State can embrace the true spirit of rivalry week and knock Ole Miss down a peg and just keep them off of our backs. So you got your mic, Nick? You want me to move on to the next one? Okay. All right. Utah State, Colorado State. The only reason I included this one is just because Colorado State can still make the Mountain West Conference championship game. They pretty much killed all their playoff hopes last week whenever they lost to Fresno. So now they're just in it to hopefully make it to the Mountain West Conference championship game. They do need UNLV to lose to get there. It's probably the second easiest scenario for conference championships. Two teams vying for one spot. UNLV clinches with a win versus Nevada. Or if UNLV loses to Nevada and Colorado State loses to Utah State, UNLV will still clinch, but that'll hurt UNLV's top 25 chances. Colorado State clinches with their win at Utah State and a UNLV loss. And again, that game is tomorrow on Fox Sports 1 at 2:30. If you guys are done with your Black Friday shopping and ready to roll, you can watch that game, give you a nice little win. The next game, I have this on here just because it's a P5 school against a G5 school. I guess it's P4 now. Stanford and San Jose State. no team can make the playoffs. San Jose State's a 2-point favorite, but a win over a P4 school where we beat them, that's going to help our strength of schedule. So we want San Jose State to win in that case. The first rivalry, or not the first, but probably the most notable rivalry game of Friday is going to be our primetime game at 6:30 on ABC against Georgia Tech at number 7 Georgia. Georgia's already clinched their SEC spot, and they'll be playing the winner of the Texas A&M game. They're a 94.5% chance to make the playoffs. The Yellow Jackets, they've been known to throw some kinks in the cogs this week. Anything happens in rivalry week. If Georgia Tech can find a way to make that happen, that's going to send shockwaves, probably more so than Oklahoma beating Alabama, through the college football world. Georgia most likely wouldn't drop out of the playoffs, but it would lower their seeding and maybe provide a way for Boise State to move up. But I do know that A&M, their only path to the CFP right now is beating Texas next week and beating Georgia in the conference championship game. So if Georgia loses 2 games in a row, they could be left on the outside looking in. So this one's a must win for them in that sense.
So, how many do we think will be making the playoffs from the SEC?
From the SEC, I think you're going to see Texas for sure. Penn State, or no, they're not SEC. Excuse me. Georgia, Tennessee, and maybe Alabama or Ole Miss. Those are far-fetched.
Yeah, because Ole Miss kind of shot themselves last week,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. We're still getting an echo.
Okay, I'm gonna plug in my wires, so I don't know what's going on with my mic here. Which won't be good for my TikTok community because they won't be able to hear you now. So I'm looking here at we have right now we have.
So for sure you're going to have Texas, Georgia, and Tennessee. And I think
Texas,
those 3
Georgia,
are good.
Tennessee.
Yeah, they're going to be a lock for sure. Now, whether or not, I think we got ourselves on a delay again. Gotta love technical difficulties in the middle of a live show. That's always great.
Is this better? My mic actually wanted to work after that, so
yeah.
Hopefully,
yeah, that's great.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah, we got some people on TikTok here saying Alabama is a lock. Roll Tide.
They're only. I think Alabama only gets in with the Tennessee and Georgia loss this week.
So Alabama will need a Tennessee and a Georgia loss.
Yeah, I think that's the only way, or an Indiana loss.
Or an Indiana. Oh, because then they would jump over a 10th ranked Indiana. So that 10th slot is really where everyone's trying to get, correct?
Yeah.
On the rankings.
Yep.
So after that, you just have because after the 10th slot, then you have left is like maybe a G5 berth, and then after that's kind of that last spot,
so you're
kind of up for grabs,
right. So moving on to Saturday's games, we've got the morning game is Michigan at number 2 Ohio State. It's been over 1,800 days since Ohio State last beat Michigan. and I would really love to see Michigan extend that here. Well, it won't knock them out of the playoffs, but it will open the door for Penn State and Indiana to go to the Big 12 championship game. So,
To fight it out
yeah. Uh,
against number one, correct?
Number two. Oh, yeah. No, yeah. The Big 12 championship game is against Oregon. Yes. Uh, but yeah, they're if Ohio State loses, then Penn State wins, Penn State goes. If Ohio State and Penn State both lose, then Indiana gets back into the Big 12 or Big 10 championship game. Uh, if they all three lose, then it's Ohio State just because of tiebreakers. So if Ohio State loses, then they're going to be rooting real hard for Penn State and Indiana both to lose. Uh, Otherwise, they're out of the Big 10, Big 12.
And we want, as Boise State fans, we want them to slug that out because we want Oregon to win the Big Ten championship, correct?
Yep.
And remain
Yep.
number one.
Yeah, if Ohio State does win, then it secures their rematch.
Yeah. So, but if they did have that rematch and Ohio State wins the Ducks in the Big Ten championship, do you think that the Ducks would probably just go from number one to number two?
Either that, I think they'll stay top five for sure, unless it's a blowout loss. They may drop down below, but they won't drop out of the playoffs. I don't think you can keep an undefeated team ranked number one most of the year, and then they lose in the conference championship game and drop them completely out of the playoffs. A G5 school, I could see them doing that, but not to a power school.
Right. And then, but also, so say if that scenario played out where Ohio State went in there, took care of business, and they won the Big Ten, um, could you one of those, or do you think one of those would get the bye, right?
Yeah, Ohio State will get there. Whoever wins the Big Ten will get a bye. Whoever wins
And then,
the SEC will get a bye, unless it's A&M. Because it's going to come down. It's either going to come down to Texas and Georgia or Texas and A&M. The only way the SEC doesn't get a bye is if A&M wins this week against Texas, and then wins next week against Georgia.
so if that scenario played out in Texas A&M one, would that give Oregon a bye, or would they still be like at five?
Now you only get a bye as a conference champion.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So if Oregon were to lose the conference championship, they'd be looking at a 5 seed.
correct. Yeah, I think we're not going to get anything better than a 4 seed. There was a unless A&M wins the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they put SMU and Miami both in the top 25, and Clemson down there, or excuse me, top 10, and Clemson down there at number 12. So whichever one of those schools wins the ACC, I think will be ranked in front of Boise State at the end, or will be ranked in front of Boise State at
So
the final CFP rankings.
So you do think like a Miami or um, SMU could be ranked 3?
Yeah, that 3 seed. They may not be ranked 3, but they'll take that 3 seed. Yeah,
get the 3. Yeah, in the Peach Bowl. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Boise State's a solid lock at the 4 seed if they win out. I don't think they can get a 3 seed unless A&M, like I said, wins the SEC. In which case, the SEC would likely get the 12 seed. The Big 10 would get the 1 seed. The ACC would get the 2 seed. Boise State would get the 3 seed. And then you're down to the SEC and the Big 12 or Tulane in the AAC, vying for that last number 5 seed. Or the number 12 seed as the 5th conference champion.
Yeah. So there'd have to be some chaos in the SEC for us to make the Peach Bowl.
Right. So, but I'm happy with a 4 seed. That puts us playing at home in the Fiesta Bowl, our home away from home. So
that's technically a home game for us. We've brought some hardware every time we've gone there. So
All right. My game of the week morning edition this week is going to be actually. You know what? I skipped one. Let's put a ice on that one.
Okay.
Tennessee at number 8. They're one of the ones that benefited greatly from the chaos of last week because it put them from
Hmm.
on the bubble to in the mix. They play at Vanderbilt, who we all know uh, has a high bloodlust for top 10 teams. uh,
Yep. They'll take those
they're
field goals down to the river, right?
Yep. So a Tennessee loss likely eliminates them from the playoffs, uh, since they don't have a conference championship to recover. Um, I They'll probably drop to like a 11 or 12 seed if they lose. But because of the that number 12 spot being for the fifth largest highest ranked conference champion, uh, they'll likely be out. They won't have another game after this one to climb back into it.
Hmm. He's right.
Now let's get to my game of the week,
All right.
morning edition, because there's a couple of them this week. Number 15, South Carolina at number 12, Clemson. This is a must-win match for both schools. South Carolina's got a 20.1% chance to make the playoffs. Clemson's got a 35.9% chance to make the playoffs. It is a rivalry game, and a loss by either school eliminates them from the playoffs. Unless Let me rephrase that. A loss by South Carolina will eliminate them. A loss by Clemson will force Clemson to have to play in and win their conference champion to be in. And that means they need Miami to lose so that they can go on and play SMU. Uh, so it's the loss does not, if Clemson were to lose, it does not affect their conference championship uh, possibilities because South Carolina is an SEC school. So Clemson's already finished their ACC schedule, and they're just big uh, fans of Miami losing this week. So Miami loses, Clemson's in the ACC championship game, win or lose. So, but it is a must-win game if they want to keep uh, their at-large bid alive. If they lose, then they can't get an at-large bid at that point. And like I said, a loss for South Carolina. They don't have another game after this, so uh, they'll be eliminated with a loss.
So,
Maryland and
who-
go
are
ahead.
we rooting? We're rooting for South Carolina to win, or
Uh, yes, and I went back and forth on this. I almost made this a reader's choice game. Uh, because if it doesn't matter who's win, the next one's going to come up. But this is South Carolina's last game of the year. They don't have a conference championship, so if they beat Clemson and everybody else in front of them wins, or there's no movement in front of them, I don't see them moving up more than one or two spots uh, with a win over Clemson. So with them not having a conference championship game where they could jump us, and where they don't have the conference championship game where they could take the 4 seed from us. It's just a South Carolina win gets Clemson off our backs because Clemson is the most poised to be able to jump us with their upcoming schedule. Should they get into the conference championship game, especially after defeating a top 15 team, especially if
so?
Boise State goes out and plays down to their competition tomorrow. Uh, they could a lackluster performance could jump Clemson over Boise State should Clemson beat South Carolina.
So, do we want, as a Boise State fan, do we want all three of those ranked ACC teams to lose? Is that what we're looking for? We want chaos over there.
I'm always for chaos, but yeah, ideally we would.
Because right now you have the Canes at 6. You have
Yep.
SMU at 9 and Clemson at 12 in the CFP
Yeah. And
rankings.
Miami's got a good chance. They all three have a good chance of losing this week. Um, Miami, they play. We go ahead and go into there. They've got Syracuse, an 8-3 Syracuse team. Then they're playing at Syracuse. Um, Miami has to win to clinch their spot, and secure Syracuse is looking to play spoilers. So Clemson is going to be watching that game with our Clemson fans. Well, no, Clemson should their game should be over. I guarantee you they're probably going to be watching that game in the locker room because a Syracuse win puts Clemson in the ACC championship game. So that'll be fun to watch. Miami's got a 78.8% chance to make the playoffs. It'll be up to the committee. I don't know if they'll drop Miami all the way out or not as a 2-loss team, but their 2 losses will have come to unranked opponents. So it just depends on how much weight the committee puts on that. And then going into SMU playing California at home, Cal's 6-5. SMU with a 67% chance to make the playoffs. This could be a trap game because they've already locked in their ACC championship game. They don't have to win to get in, uh, and they could be looking ahead to either Miami or Clemson, depending on what happens against Syracuse. Now they're going to be playing at the same time, so they're not going to know, okay, we have to win, or who they're going to play before they play. Uh, so that's SMU's only a 13.5 point favorite, and Miami's only a 12-point favorite. So it is very possible that we could see a Clemson SMU ACC championship game. Uh, so that's another reason why we want South Carolina to go ahead and win, because if we have that, then we'll be rooting for Clemson over SMU so that SMU will drop uh, down below us.
So again, so if Miami wins, they're in, right? In
Yep,
the championship.
correct.
So Clemson has to win and Miami has to lose for Clemson to be in against SMU.
No, Clemson doesn't have to win. Their conference champion or their conference slate's already over.
Okay,
So
so,
they just,
so they
yeah,
just need a Miami loss in
they
the
just need a Miami loss. That's why we want South Carolina to go ahead and beat Clemson so it drops them down in the rankings. So if Miami does lose, then when they beat SMU, or if they beat SMU, they won't then jump back over the top of us, and SMU and Clemson basically just switch spots.
So if SMU loses, do they have a good chance of not even making the playoffs?
Uh, if they
Is
lose in the conference championship game,
right? Or
yeah,
even if they what if they lost uh heading
to
in
Cal.
if they yeah if they have a trap.
No, not necessarily, because they've already clinched the ACC championship game. So no matter what happens this week, they're in it. Uh,
But they do have to win that to be in. If they do go if they went to the championship even with another loss and then
yeah,
lost in the
they
championship,
would
they have to
lose
be out.
if yeah if they play or get beat by Cal, then they would eliminate the possibility of an at large if they lose the ACC championship game.
So
Uh,
their only path would be to win the
yeah,
championship after that.
if they lose this week, their only path is winning next week.
Okay.
So Penn State's got an easy game. Of course, we thought Minnesota was going to be easy for them too, uh,
Mhm.
and we see how that happened. They're playing Maryland. They've got a 98.4% chance to make the playoffs. So unless they lose to Maryland, I think they're pretty much in. Uh, but Indiana's going to be hoping really hard that they lose, and Ohio State loses to Michigan, because that's Indiana's only path into the Big Ten championship game is Ohio State and Penn State losing. Uh, if Ohio State loses to Michigan and Penn State wins, then Penn State will be playing Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. Uh, Maryland can't get a winning season or a bowl game. So they're basically just playing for their seniors at this point. So it may not be a good game to watch if Penn State tees off. And
So
then
Penn State needs Ohio State to lose to Michigan in order to get into that championship game.
correct. They need Ohio State to lose,
Full
and then
stop.
they need to win.
Yep, full stop.
Yep. Notre Dame's got USC this week. This could be a upset here. It very well could. I don't know that it will. Just depends on what the CFP looks into. But this would give Notre Dame 2 unranked losses on the year. One obviously coming to NIU at the first of the year, and then a USC team. Granted, USC is bowl eligible at 6-5, so it may not hurt that much. But Notre Dame's got to take care of business if they don't want to leave it into the committee's hands. At number 5, if it's a close game, I don't see them dropping out of the playoffs. If it's a blowout win, that puts them on the bubble, I think. Where there can't be a conference champion, all they can do is get an at-large bid. So we'll see how that ends up.
You got USC. They're riding a two game win streak. So I mean, they're not totally a even though they're 6-5, that rivalry against the Irish is usually pretty good.
Yeah.
And then, as I said, they're coming into this game with a 2-game win streak, so they're looking up.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Iron Bowl this year is a 5-6 Auburn team versus an 8-3 Alabama team. Alabama's ranked 13. This one's not going to be easy for Alabama either. Auburn's coming off of their upset win on Texas A&M. They need to win this game to get bowl eligible, and Bama's coming off their loss to OU where they couldn't find the end zone to save their lives. So this one has every chance for Auburn to upset Alabama and Alabama get knocked out completely out of the playoffs. Right now, they're only a 29.6% chance to make it. So this one would eliminate them for sure because there's no path forward with a loss to Auburn. And knowing Auburn, they're here for it.
Yeah.
they hate Alabama so much. They're here for it. They want that loss.
This is kind of like their this is like their natty, right?
Yeah, for sure.
They got
Yeah.
nothing else to play for except
Yep.
to punk Alabama.
And they have to win if they want to play in a bowl game too. So it's right there. They're going to come out firing on all cylinders because it's a must-win game for them. It's a must-win game for Auburn to get into a bowl game, and it's a must-win game for Alabama to keep their CFP hopes alive.
Because
So
Auburn right now is sitting at 5-6. They too are riding the 2-game win streak, and as we saw last week, Alabama had that horrible loss to Oklahoma. So this could be prime for another upset.
Yep. The next Big 12 game that we got is number 16 Arizona State at Arizona. I don't really see Arizona State losing this one. However, like I've said many times before, it's rivalry week, and things happen. I just hope that all the chaos magic wasn't spent last week and we get some this week because I'm here for the chaos. So back in that Big 12 scenario where you get that 8-team first place tie, Arizona State is one of the teams that needs to lose in order to make that happen. And again, you get all the top 4 lose, which is Arizona State, Iowa State, BYU, and Colorado. You get all those 4 losing, and a Baylor win against a Baylor win and a Baylor win versus TCU. That's sorry. I'm trying to read 2 different lines at once, and it's not working for me. You get a Baylor win and a TCU win, and all the top four lose, then you're going to have a Baylor Texas Tech Big 12 conference champion, which to me that's poetic justice based on what the commissioner said this week about his schools not being ranked above Boise State, and I really want that to happen. I will be rooting hard for it. I don't think it's going to happen because I don't think Arizona State's going to lose to Arizona. They've looked too good the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, so for me, like I'm kind of taking this personal because we knew that, we knew if Boise State didn't cover that 20-point, cushion with Wyoming, we knew that, the talking Big 12 heads were gonna be out there yapping about, the either that 20-point cushion, or the 41-point cushion with Arizona State over Wyoming. So I'm hoping that, just as Kansas did to Colorado last week, I'm hoping that Arizona punks their rival, Arizona State. And if I'm correct, I think, isn't it at the Wildcats?
I believe, yes, it is.
It's a home game for
Yep.
Arizona. So um, praying hard for Arizona for this upset because one, it'll shut those Big 12 lunatics up. and like I said, like I've had many conversations about this. Like, yeah, the style points are one thing, but what we do have is we do have scoreboard against the Big 12. We have um, UNLV beat Kansas, who beat
Hmm.
BYU and Colorado. So we do have that leverage. So they just we
And you have UNLV with the win over Houston, who beat Kansas State.
right. So um, that's all they have. All they have is that 41-point cushion they had over what uh, early in the season Wyoming.
Yeah,
Um, and if I think wasn't that in Arizona? Wasn't that a home game for them?
I'm going to say yes, but I don't remember.
Yeah. So yeah, I really, out of all these games, I really want Arizona to um, just to shut the Sun Devils up
Yep.
and the Big
Eh,
12.
If Arizona was playing for a bowl game too, for bowl eligibility, I would feel a little bit better about the fighting chance that they have.
Yeah.
It is rivalry week though. That's the only reason why I'm giving any kind of chance for them to win. But it's going to be tough for them. We'll see how they get up for it. A lot of people, their rivalry games, especially last one of the year, it's you can lose all year long as you win that game. That's all that matters, and that's how it is with the Iron Bowl with Alabama and Auburn too. Both those schools, they don't care how their season goes up until the Iron Bowl. As long as you win the Iron Bowl, you're a champion of the year. So, and I hope that's the case here, where with Arizona and Arizona State, with Arizona wanting to win that bad. Moving on to Purdue and Indiana. Indiana dropped to number 10 after their loss to Ohio State. I had them dropping 6-11, but uh, that's okay. I actually did pretty well with my CFP predictions. I was only off by a few on all of them. Colorado was the biggest drop that I didn't see coming, but Indiana's got a 96.2% chance to make the playoffs. That goes down to 0 if they lose to Purdue. I don't think they'll lose to Purdue. Uh, they'll be a lock if they win. They'll be a lock into the playoffs. Uh, whether or not they get to play in the Big Ten championship depends on Ohio State and Penn State both losing.
Yeah, because they need, so for them to clinch a spot in there, um, they need Ohio State to lose to Michigan and then Penn State to lose to Maryland, which is, I don't know about those odds with them,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We are getting to the end of the season though. Teams are starting to wear down, so it's possible. But your power team's starting to wear down, so is your non-power team. So it goes both ways, I guess. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Washington and Oregon, the the Pac-12 rivalry matchup. Um, being a Big Ten rivalry matchup for the first time. This should be a fun one.
Yep.
Oregon's a 19-point favorite. Oregon's pretty much a lock, no matter what, into the playoffs, unless they get blown out by Washington and then turn around and get blown out by Ohio State or Penn State, or Indiana, the off chance. Oregon would have to completely unravel for them to be out of the playoffs. I just hope they don't get caught snoozing at the wheel coming off of a bye week, playing
Mm-hmm.
a rivalry game against a uh, mediocre than a mediocre Washington team.
Is
At
this
least,
in Austin or is this at?
yes, it's an Autzen.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least
So
we got one.
yeah, uh, they're a mediocre Washington team, at least in comparison to the Washington we've been used to seeing the last few years. So
They are bowl eligible, correct?
they
At
are,
6
yes.
and 1? Okay.
So uh, it'll be an easy game for Oregon to look past because they're probably already looking to get ready for Ohio State because I really think it's going to end up being Oregon and Ohio State in the conference championship game. So it'll be real easy to overlook Washington this week and trap themselves. So they just need to come out firing on all cylinders and leave no doubt and keep that perfect record alive because that perfect record is single-handedly carrying Boise State through their lackluster performance against Nevada and Wyoming.
I agree, my friend. But I mean, looking forward, that rematch between Oregon and Ohio State, if that were the case in the championship, that's going to be a heck of a game.
It is. It is. And it's going to be played in Indianapolis too. So it's going to be basically a home game for Ohio State because Oregon's got to travel across the country to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So
And that's almost a de facto national championship. You know, you got
yeah,
if everything
number
stays
one versus
put.
number two.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, what a um, yeah. Um, so,
uh,
but just to mention though, Washington they won last week. Things are looking good for them. I'm looking at their stats here. You know you know the they are mediocre in conference. They're 4-4. But again, they are bowl eligible at 6-5. Um, they have only 25 points above what they're allowing. So I like Oregon's chances here. They just got to not be in that trap mode, right?
yep.
They got
Yep.
to take care of business and just like Boise State, they just win, baby. You got to just win.
Yep. So my game of the week evening edition, I could not decide which one I wanted my game of the week to be. This one is going to be one for the ages. It's the first Lone Star Showdown since 2011 between number 3 Texas and number 20 Texas A&M. A&M's only got a 6.2% chance to make the playoffs, and that's contingent upon them beating Texas this week and beating Georgia in the conference championship next week. Um, Texas is a 97% chance to make the playoffs. They're a lock, win or lose, since A&M is a top 20 team. Um, A&M beating Georgia is the best chance, I believe, for the SEC to not get a top four, a first round bye in the playoffs. Um, well, that's the only chance. A&M's got to beat Georgia, and SEC won't get a top four. That'll give Boise State a 3 seed. So that's our scenario for Boise State to get a 3 seed is A&M beating Texas this week and beating Georgia in the conference championship next week, and Boise State will get a 3 seed, and it'll be down to uh, the SEC most likely getting the 4 seed, and then the Big 12 and the AAC fighting for that 5th seed.
So for us to get the Peach Bowl, we need a 3-loss Texas A&M SEC conference champion. They would be the 4th seed. We'd be the 3 seed heading into the Peach Bowl. Correct?
Correct. But will Texas A&M beat Texas? I don't know. This is Texas's toughest test this year since Oklahoma, and Oklahoma wasn't really that tough of a test, other than it being the Red River rivalry.
Yeah.
There is a lot of emotion on the line, being the first Lone Star Showdown in so many years, and the first one in the SEC. Uh, it's I don't know. I probably will block off my entire evening and just sit in front of the TV for that game, because I think it's gonna be something special. Uh, and they're playing in
Yeah.
College Station too.
I was just looking
So
that up. Yep.
yeah,
They are in
they
College
they
Station.
just had the largest concert in the world, or in the United States, I guess. Whenever George Strait played out there here a couple of years ago. So maybe they'll have the largest football game too.
But I did see a comment here on TikTok from Be the Change. It said Texas A&M choked last week. I hope they don't ruin Texas season. So
Yeah,
let me see.
that,
Let
that's
me look
that's
here.
another thing too. They're coming off that upset loss by
Yeah.
Auburn, so they're going to be. And
Yeah.
I really think they were looking ahead to this week. To be honest with you, I pegged that as a trap game last week just because of the Lone Star Showdown this week, and it looks like I was right. So uh, I don't think you're going to see the same Texas A&M team come out this week that came out last week against Auburn.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine, especially it's at home. They're I mean they're ranked number 20. So you got to stay hungry. Sure, um, they're at home. They're fighting for their postseason lives. I think when we talked last week, weren't we saying that Auburn game was a trap game because they were thinking
Yep.
about Texas, right?
Yep.
So, um, do I think it's possible? I don't know, but there's plenty of motivation there. I'm
Yep.
looking at their stats here. Um, Pretty good points for versus their points against. They are, um, you know, over 120 over that. So I mean, they don't have a problem scoring, and um, but
So
Texas doesn't either.
it should be noted that there is coming off of this game, there is a path. It is a very unlikely path, but there is a path for Boise State to get a number 2 seed. You have the Big Ten champions going to get number 1. That's a lock. But if Texas loses, that's going to drop them out of the top 5. Georgia will move up. Tennessee's going to move up, probably in the 15 area. And then you have, or not Tennessee, uh, Texas A&M. They're going to move up probably in the 15 area. Then you have Texas A&M beat Georgia. That's going to knock Georgia out, not necessarily out of the playoffs, but out of the automatic bid. So, and that'll probably move Texas A&M up in the and around the 10 to 12 area. Still not over Boise State if Boise State wins, especially if we get UNLV and win at a top 25 matchup. Then you have Clemson lose to South Carolina this week, Miami lose to Syracuse this week. Clemson beat SMU in the ACC championship game, but doesn't jump Boise State. Now you have the Big Ten as a number 1, Boise State as a number 2, the ACC or the SEC or the ACC, either one as the 3 and the other one as the 4, and your Big 12 as the 5, or the AAC as the 5th, the number 12 seed. So there is a chance for complete chaos to happen and Boise State get a number 2 seed, and that would be insane for the first year of the CFP. Highly unlikely, but the chance is there.
Let's see. I have not done any research on that bowl. Is that the what is that? Is that the Cotton Bowl
The 2 seed, I believe, is the Cotton Bowl.
in Dallas?
Yep. And I really want that to happen because I'm only 2 hours from there, so
Hey, it's all right to be selfish sometimes. Especially with that. But yeah.
it's the only reason I looked into it. So we're getting towards the end of our list. We're on our last page. And again, I'll have all this posted as well in the group after we get done. I'll finish up typing it up. I tried to get it done before.
On TikTok, we have a group in Meta, which is Facebook. It's called Bronco Nation Updates. We have 27,000 members. So if you want to look at Sam's list, hop on over after this is done. Hop on over to Facebook and join our group. It's a group. It's called Bronco Nation Updates. Join the other 27,000 members, and you can enjoy the same cheer guide that we've been kind of running through the last hour or so. But appreciate you guys watching.
It'll be about 30 to 45 minutes after we get done here. I'll have it posted in that group there. I got to type it up.
But we still got some time, so make sure you guys on TikTok, make sure that you're sharing this out. Like the screen, start tapping the screen. Appreciate those. Any gifts that you give us on TikTok, like I said, all monetization goes to Boise State, to our BAA, which helps the student athletes. So appreciate you guys for watching, commenting on here. Just keep it up, and we're still running through the list.
All right. Number 24, Kansas State, at number 18, Iowa State. That's going to be a good one. We want Kansas State to win that one to keep Iowa State from jumping us after the Big 12 championship game. I don't think they'll jump us this week, but a win will put them in position to jump us next week to keep us out of that number 4 seed, if the committee really wants to do that, and it'll drop us back down to the 12 seed. So we just want Kansas State to win that so that does not happen. Iowa State right now is a 26.7% chance to make the playoffs, where Kansas is a 0.8% chance. So it's a must-win game for Kansas to keep any kind of hopes alive. So it's not going to come out and hurt. Sorry. I have a visitor. Everyone say hi to Princess. All right. Anyway.
Yes, do what they want to do.
You're right. So, yeah. Kansas is going to come out firing just because it's the only way to keep their very, very slim playoff hopes alive is if they win.
They are ranked number 24 right now, and I'm looking at your championship scenarios. It looks like if all top 4 win, then we're looking at an Iowa State, Arizona State Big 12 championship game.
Correct. Now, if Iowa State is the only one of the top 4 to lose, then that's going to open the door for BYU to come in, and it'll be Arizona State versus BYU.
And for the scenario for Colorado to jump back in would be, I'm looking through. There's a lot of stuff going on here.
Right. It's for Colorado to get back in, BYU has to lose and West Virginia has to lose. And Colorado's back in.
Even with the Iowa State and Arizona State win?
It's only BYU, the BYU being the only, yeah. So Arizona State, Iowa State, and Colorado have to win. BYU has to lose, and West Virginia has to lose, and Colorado's back in.
Okay, so if BYU loses, so if all four
Colorado.
win, it's Iowa State and Arizona State. But if BYU loses, then it's Arizona State and Colorado.
Yep, unless West Virginia wins, in which case it'll be Arizona State and Iowa State if Texas Tech, Baylor, and Cincinnati win. So there's a whole lot of the Big 12 is very messy.
It is. Yeah, I'm looking at this.
Now Kansas State's way to the conference championship is having 3 of the top 4 lose, so only one of the top 4 teams winning, and having Baylor lose. And then Kansas State will play whichever one of the top 4 wins.
So, so Baylor still has a slim chance to get into the championship as well, right?
It'll be Baylor versus Texas Tech if the top 4 all lose and Baylor and TCU both win.
That's like the Big 12 eating itself, right?
I know. This was the Mexican standoff I've been talking about in my previous cheer guides all year long that never happened, and I was worried that it wasn't going to happen until here in the last few weeks of college football. Now it's starting to come into focus.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Big 12 is a mess, but good news is after this week we'll know exactly who's where and what we need for Boise State to keep that 4 seed.
Be the Change on TikTok just commented that the SEC has been eating itself all season 2, which is true.
It has, especially with Vandy.
And there's still more eating to go.
Right. Yep. It's going to be a fun rivalry week, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So
this is going to be a great weekend for football.
Yeah. So my Reader's Choice game is Nevada at number 22 UNLV, and the reason this is my Reader's Choice game is because there are 2 different scenarios that Boise State fans want. One, they want Colorado State, Boise State in the conference championship game because it's perceived as an easy win versus the alternative being UNLV. Mm-hmm. And 2, UNLV, Boise State fans want UNLV because it gives us another top 25 win and the perception of if you want to play with the best, you have to beat the best. So this is why it's my Reader's Choice game. So the people that want Colorado State in the Mountain West Championship game, they're going to be going for Nevada. The people that want UNLV in the conference championship game, they're going to be going for UNLV. So right now it's a must-win game for UNLV to keep their 17% chance at the playoffs alive. But they do have to go through Boise State again. And it's a Boise State home game, not down in UNLV, where they can boast more record crowd numbers.
1 second. Be the Change. So if Oregon and Ohio State lose this week, Oregon's still in the Big Ten championship. But if Ohio State loses, that means that Penn State, correct? Penn State,
yes,
gets into the Big Ten championship.
Yep. So, yeah, Oregon's in no matter what. They clinched last week on their bye week based on all the everything that went on. Ohio State clinches with a win. Or if Ohio State, Penn State, and Indiana all lose, then Ohio State still goes just based on tiebreakers. Penn State clinches with a win versus Maryland, and Ohio State lost versus Michigan, and Indiana can get in with a win at Purdue, and both Ohio State and Penn State losing to Michigan and Maryland, respectively.
And then we've got another question. If Georgia and Tennessee get upset, what are we looking at there in the SEC?
Tennessee would lose their at-large bid if they got upset. Georgia is already guaranteed. They're locked into the SEC championship game. So if they get upset, then it will probably hurt their at-large bid. But if they beat Texas A&M or Texas next week in the SEC championship game, they'll be a lock in the playoffs for sure. because they're not going to put a Georgia team in the an SEC champion outside of the top 10 unless it's A&M, which they might do, just depending
Right.
on how much they move this week if they beat Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, so got those questions. So let's go back to the UNLV, Nevada, and implications to Boise State. I'm in the. I actually want to see UNLV win because I want that second win over a ranked team,
Hmm.
and then also that gives us more clout against the Big 12 because we already have scoreboard against
Yeah,
them, on head to head with between conferences, and that would just give us even more padding to secure either that fourth or third seed.
yeah.
That's my opinion.
Now UNLV or yeah, UNLV being in the conference champion, I was on the fence about it, but seeing how SMU jumped us and Indiana didn't fall below us, I really think that we need UNLV, a win over UNLV, in order to not get jumped by the Big 12 if the scenarios play out where that's a possibility, where Arizona State wins out. If we don't have another ranked opponent, I think the Big 12 jumps us if it's Arizona State and Iowa State in the Big 12 championship game. So I think we need a UNLV ranked, and if they win, they could be ranked in the top 20 by the time that we get to them. And so I thought that it should have been a top 20 matchup whenever we played them earlier this year,
Mm-hmm.
at least top 25 anyway.
Yeah, I think
Um,
they were ranked 26 at the time.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I thought that Washington State, whenever we played them, I thought that should have been a top 25 matchup as well. But they were
Well,
ranked one or two spots outside whenever
yeah, I
we
think
played
they were
them.
26 too as well.
Yeah.
Uh, is this gonna? Are they're playing at UNR, correct?
No, it's at UNLV.
Oh, in Vegas. Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. I've got a question here. I think we covered this before. Twin Eric on TikTok asks, um, "What if the Gamecocks beat Clemson? Doesn't that put
All
in
that.
SMU
Yeah.
and Miami in the ACC champ?"
No, it does not. Clemson's already finished their conference schedule. The South Carolina is in the SEC. So the only thing that the Gamecocks beating the Tigers will accomplish is basically guarantee Clemson can't get an at-large bid because they'll drop in the rankings. Which that's what we want to happen. We want South Carolina to beat Clemson so that they drop, and then we want Miami to lose to Syracuse, and Clemson will then go play SMU. So Miami losing to Syracuse, Clemson will play SMU next week, and then Clemson to beat SMU will put Boise State in a 3 seed. Uh,
Okay, so our claim to a 3 seed is dictated on if there's chaos in the ACC, and our
yep,
claim to the second seed is chaos in the SEC.
SEC and ACC. Yep,
Okay, wow.
yeah.
Like,
So they're going to be a new meaning to that blue chaos flag by the end of the season if all that
oh yeah.
works. Our last game on the docket is Houston at BYU. Houston's knocked off Kansas State once this year. Maybe they can knock off BYU as well and eliminate BYU from the Big 12 championship game and their 24.2% chance to make the playoffs. Of course, that all rides on only Iowa State losing. If that happens, uh, if only Iowa State loses out of the top four, being Arizona State, Iowa State, BYU, and Colorado, then Arizona State will play BYU. If only Arizona State loses, then Iowa State will play BYU. So that's the only path for BYU to get into the Big 12 championship game is only Arizona State or only Iowa State losing. in the this week.
Okay, so all right. But everything's still up for grabs in the Big 12 championship.
Yep. There's 8 teams that have a shot to play in the Big 12 championship right now.
Okay, so for what you said, for BYU to make it, they need only a Iowa State loss.
Yep.
Or Arizona State loss, correct?
Correct.
Either one of those losses gets them into the championship.
Correct.
Okay. And
or if BYU wins and any one of the other top 4 wins, that'll give them into it. So if it's BYU and Arizona State are the only 2 that win, that's who will play in the conference championship. Same with Iowa State and Colorado. If it's only those 2, then those 2 will play in the conference champion.
So if BYU wins and Colorado wins, then it's those 2 in the championship.
As long as Arizona State and Iowa State lose.
Right. So out of the 4, if those is it only for BYU that works, or is it for any 4 combos?
It's the top 4. The top 4 schools. If only 2 of the top 4 schools win, then those 2 teams will play in the conference championship.
Yep. And then so and then in the scenario on your very first ledger, it says if all 4 of them win, then it's Iowa State versus Arizona State.
Correct, and that's due to tiebreakers.
And then if only Iowa State loses, then it's Arizona State, BYU. So it seems like BYU has more leverage with 1 loss in all 4 of those, right? Because if either Iowa State or Arizona lose, then they're in.
Yep.
But Colorado, let's see, how does that work?
Colorado only has 1 path,
and that's if 2 lose.
Yeah. Let me rephrase that. Colorado's got 2 paths. If they win and only one other top 4 wins, then they're in. Their only other path is only BYU losing and West Virginia winning. That's their only other path to the conference championship. So if West Virginia loses, then the BYU loss doesn't count, and it's going to have to be Colorado winning and only one of the other schools winning.
And we got, let's see, West Virginia is playing Texas Tech.
Yep.
Right? So yeah, I was trying to figure out why there's such importance on the West Virginia game.
Tiebreakers. There's a long list of tie-breaking games. I didn't put them in my guide just because I was trying to keep it simple for everybody. But if you got dove deep into the Big 12 tiebreaker stuff and tried to hunt all that stuff out, you're going to need a bottle of aspirin.
Okay. All right. So for Colorado to get in there, they need a 1 loss and a West Virginia win.
Yep.
That's the other path.
Yep. BYU being the only loss. So BYU losing to Houston. Mm-hmm. And then Arizona State beating Arizona, Iowa State beating Kansas State, and Colorado beating Oklahoma is BYU's or Colorado's path in.
Right.
With West Virginia beating Texas Tech. If West Virginia doesn't beat Texas Tech, then if BYU loses is the only loss, then it's Arizona State versus Iowa State. If Texas Tech beats West Virginia, Baylor beats Kansas, and Cincinnati wins, I believe they're playing TCU.
Hey, if you're looking for more followers, clients, or customers, check out our ServingBroncoNation.com to get your business added on the directory. When you purchase a tax-deductible plan, you're investing in Boise State and getting access to millions of views throughout the year on the directory and our Bronco Nation network empire that we built. In October, we reached 2.48 million viewers, and this isn't ServingBroncoNation.com isn't just for Bronco fans. You get on that directory. Our marketing team does a really good job at funneling those users and those views to the directory. It doesn't matter. But what we're saying, though, is for a minimal investment for your company throughout the year, you could garner millions and millions of views to your business to help you add new clients, get more business. And the thing about it is it benefits student athletes collegiately. So if you want to boost your potential for your business, or maybe you're a you're somebody who wants to be an influencer, we'll put you on the directory and start getting you those views and funneling those customers and that influence that you're looking for. So go to ServingBroncoNation.com/plans. Pick one of those affordable plans. Get on the directory, and our team is fast acting. You'll get on the website day of, and start getting those views and likes and followers immediately. So want to really thank all of the sponsors that are on there now. Like I said, we got 4 plans. They're all affordable, and they will get you millions of views annually. And with each status star that you get when you renew each year, we do our partners a solid by upping those recognition weekly and monthly to get you even more followers. So we're in it with you, and we want to see you prosper because we want people to support the companies that support the Boise State Broncos. So really appreciate everyone who's on the directory. Does a huge deal. We were able to through the directory and through our nonprofit Blue Elevation, we were able to raise about $6,000 for Ashton Genty's NIL last December before he made the decision to run it back. And what an awesome decision that was for him. Right now, we're looking at a Heisman Trophy candidate and probably the front runner. And like I said earlier, give that man the damn trophy now because he's earned it. So want to again thank all the companies that are on our directory, and we'll continue to put in the hard work to get you more clients and more views in that respect. Well,
so that was
this has been a great show. Again, we let the viewers know about when you might post this, and we might even add this to start adding your cheer guides and stuff like that to our BroncoNationUpdates.com website too.
Yeah.
But let everybody know where they can find your cheer guide and your championship scenarios.
Yeah. Right now, they're only in Bronco Nation updates. I'm exclusive there. I didn't really expect it to take off like this whenever I started doing them about 4 or 5 weeks ago now. So just go to the Bronco Nation updates Facebook page, join the group. I don't even think you have to join the group. I think it's a public group now. and you'll be able to search for just search Sam Gillette, and it'll pop up, and you can go through and see all the guides that I've done, all the weekly record watch updates, and the conference guide. We got time to go over the other conference championship scenarios, or the ones that we haven't talked about, just be informative.
Yeah, I mean, if you got
All right.
time,
Yeah.
let's,
All right.
let's do it.
So we've already made way with the ACC, the AAC, the Big Ten, the Big 12. Uh, let's look at Conference USA. There's three teams vying for one spot against Jacksonville State, and that's Liberty clinches with their win at Sam Houston State. Sam Houston can clinch with a win versus Liberty and a Western Kentucky loss versus Jacksonville State. Western Kentucky clinches with their win against Jacksonville State and a Liberty loss at Sam Houston. In the MAC, you got four teams vying for two spots. That race is down to four teams. Ohio clinches with a win versus Ball State. Buffalo clinches with a win versus Kent State, and a Miami, Ohio loss at Bowling Green, and an Ohio loss versus Ball State. The Buffalo's got the longest shot to get into the conference championship game there in the MAC. Uh, Miami, Ohio clinches with a win at Bowling Green, or a loss to Bowling Green, and Ohio State losing to Ball State, or not Ohio State, excuse me, Ohio losing to Ball State and Buffalo losing to Kent State. Bowling Green clinches with a Miami, Ohio, with beating Miami, Ohio, or if they lose, then Ohio lost to Ball State will also help Bowling Green. That's probably the most uh, jumbled up league outside of the Big 12 and the SEC, or Big 12 and the Big 10 right now.
Did
Uh,
you say that Ohio has clinched a spot in the MAC championship?
they they clinch with a Ball State win.
Okay,
So if they lose, it opens the door for a Miami, Ohio versus Bowling Green MAC championship.
okay, because you got it on the top there. You got the three teams are all tied at 6-1. Um, Ohio has the best record at 8-3, while Miami of Ohio and Bowling Green have 7-4 records.
Yeah. And Buffalo, the only way they can get in, they have to win, and Miami, Ohio has to lose to Bowling Green, and Ohio has to lose to Ball State. That's the only way Buffalo can get in. The Mountain West is easy. Boise State's clinched. Win tomorrow night, or excuse me, tomorrow morning, will clinch home field advantage. Uh, UNLV clinches with a win, or if both UNLV and Colorado State lose, UNLV will clinch based on tiebreakers. Only way Colorado State gets in is a win versus a Utah State and a loss, a UNLV loss to Nevada. The SEC is simple. Georgia's in it, and they'll play the winner of the Texas A&M game this week.
Hey, while you're
Uh,
here, we got it. We do have a question from TikTok.
yep.
Caleb 8, he's asking, can Alabama still make it?
Alabama can only make an at-large at this point, and they need a lot of people in front of them to lose. So they are mathematically still in it, but uh, it's a long shot.
And then we got C McMaster 51 saying Boise State would get railed by Tennessee or Georgia. I'd like to just tell you, C McMaster 51, you know, it's not the size of the dog, but the bite of the dog, as we've proved in many situations in big time bowls. But if Boise State's in it, I like our chances.
And
Full
and,
stop.
and I'd like to add too that I heard those comments leading up to the Fiesta Bowl where Boise State knocked off OU. No one gave them a shot. Everyone thought they were going to get railed, and we know how that happened.
Yep. So
All
we
right,
that's
the
that's
su-
what that's what
go ahead.
we at Boise State want, those matchups, so that we can um, have that opportunity. But as we've seen in so many years, we're sitting here in a group of five. You big dogs don't want to take us on. You guys don't want to travel to Boise State, play us. You only want us to come and play you. So, like, we're all for that. Let's see if that's the case. You come to Boise, we'll go to SEC country. But
Oh, we've already gone
yeah,
to SEC country and beat Georgia once. I think we're
yeah,
one
we
and
have.
one in Georgia. So
We'll take that on any day. Just give us the opportunity.
yep. The final conference championship is the Sun Belt. There are 4 teams vying for 2 spots. The Sun Belt, I believe, is the only conference now that still has divisions. In the East Division, Marshall clinches with a win at James Madison or a Georgia Southern loss to App State. Georgia Southern wins or clinches with a win versus App State and a Marshall loss to James Madison. So this is good for Boise State because it is very likely that Marshall can lose to James Madison. And it's very likely that Georgia Southern can beat App State. Whether or not they do or not is still left to be seen. If the Georgia Southern that shows up against Troy shows up, then it's going to most likely be Marshall. In the West Division, you've got Louisiana clinches. Yep, the Raging Cajuns. They clinch with a win over Louisiana Monroe or a South Alabama loss versus Texas State. And South Alabama clinches with a win versus Texas State and a Louisiana loss to Louisiana Monroe. So that's our conference races, and it's going to be a fun week of football as the conference championship games become a lock. We'll see what comes of it. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I like seeing that. Our first game was against Georgia Southern. I mean, I already knew that they were a good team, but it's nice to see that they, after everything's said and done, they're sitting at 7-4. They got a good clear path to their championship. What I don't like is they're only 1.4 over their against.
Yeah.
So it looks like maybe Marshall does have that better path, but I'm hoping for Georgia Southern to go in there. That would help our resume.
Yep.
Yeah. So just want to thank everyone here on TikTok, and everybody across the other platforms on Meta and YouTube. We'll do this again next week, and hoping, as Boise State fans, we're hoping that that cheer guide helps us to cheer for the right teams, so that we can still stay on course for either that Fiesta Bowl or Peach Bowl, or if we do have that total chaos, we wind up in the Cotton Bowl. I know that Bronco Nation will show up and show out wherever we go, but the main thing is we just gotta keep winning. I know our fellas are locked in on each game, but us fans, we can have fun and talk about all these sorts of scenarios. But when it comes down to it, we need to lock up at least a 10 spot on the rankings, or lower, but we gotta keep winning. And I don't care if it's ugly. For me, I don't care if it's ugly, but we just gotta keep winning, and then we gotta look at that cheer guide and be rooting for the right teams to upset those that are in our way from locking up that bye. Because I want us to have that bye. I think that 25-day rest would be perfect, especially for our workhorse Heisman Trophy winner Ashton Genty.
Speak it into existence.
Yeah. I thank you for joining me, Sam. And again,
Yep, always a pleasure.
I want to thank Boosted Oxygen Water, our sponsor for Bronco Nation Live. If you love the blue, make sure you go get your blue bottle. Perfect for tailgates, watch parties, recovery from those things the next day. So make sure you go to your local Walmart and pick up your boosted oxygen water, or go online on Walmart and pick up yourself a case of blue oxygen water. A little bit of house cleaning for our people in Bronco Nation updates, the group in Facebook. Just want to remind everybody, during the games we lock down postings, so it that way it clears up all the clutter, and we want everybody to focus in on our game threads. You go in there, participate in that, and because otherwise, if you try to post during the game, we would much rather those be comments within the game thread rather than posts that clutter up the whole group. So we lock those down. In more cases, there's a higher percentage that if you submit a post, that it's going to be deleted, then it will be approved. Very seldom will we approve something other than if it's game related. It needs to be in the game thread. So just a little bit of a friendly reminder there. And also for Bronco Nation, I don't care how cold it is tomorrow. I want you there in the stadium. I'm going to be there, section 102. Bundle up. It's a blue out. If you got blue, great. But if you can't, just be there and make sure those decimals are up. We need to win. We need to be the 12th man. And we need to rack up those false starts like we have been. We've been doing great, but let's step our game up. We got to keep stepping our game up. And as fans, we are going to take it one game at a time that we're there. So this week we're focusing on the Beavers, and we're going to be in there, and we're going to lose our voices, and we're going to make sure that we are that 12th man for our Broncos. And then after that, then we're going to have our sights on the championship game. So thank you again, Sam.
Yep.
Thank you, Bronco Nation, for watching this show. And we'll do it again next week. Make sure that you go to YouTube, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you are updated when we do these. We are planning on continuing on after the football season to basketball, covering the quad implications and all that. So make sure that you're subscribed. You on TikTok, make sure that you're following the BNU account here if you want more football talk. And then again, in the future, we're going to be covering college basketball too. Make sure that you're following us, subscribe to us too if you want, and sharing and liking our live streams and our posts that are already on our page. Go through there, take a look, like them, repost them. That'll help us out as we try to help our student athletes. So thank you for joining us. And then until next week, go Broncos.
Go Broncos.